hesitate to call me back, 'cause I won't be there. I'm on the bad side. 'Cause I wanna buy. I'm on the bad side. 'Cause I wanna buy. On my own, I don't know why. She told me it's not your fault, but you don't realize that I never wonder what's the truth in your eyes. There's a light that makes me blush. I won't look back when you're alone. I won't think twice when you're gone. Don't hesitate to call me back, 'cause I won't be there. I won't look back when you're alone. I won't think twice when you're gone. Don't hesitate to call me back, 'cause I won't be there. I'm on the bad side. 'Cause I wanna buy. 'Cause I wanna buy. 'Cause I wanna buy, baby, tonight. 'Cause I wanna buy. 'Cause I wanna buy.
I can feel it somewhere inside, haunting, like a drug I keep on wanting. There's a love that fits so perfect, it's hard to believe. There's a reason I can feel my heart stop beating, and the air gets tough just breathing. I'm alone, but I'm still feeling like someone's with me. It's strange, I know, but I feel like you're here with me, like chasing ghosts. I know you're out there. It's strange, I know. Time is unfair, 'cause I know you're out there somewhere, patient, waiting unaware, feeling like your grip might slip too soon. But I'm running, chasing speed and gunning. I'll be right there all of a sudden. I feel your heartbeat lead me straight to you. It's strange, I know, but I feel like you're here with me. It's like chasing ghosts. I know you're out there.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Bird. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Do me a favor and give the like button a crisp high five. Appreciate that. So, guys, as you can see, Rivalry Week has arrived. It's one of the best times of year. It seems like every Power 5 team has a matchup that they're excited about, whether it's Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, Florida versus FSU, Clemson versus South Carolina. There's a lot of great matchups going on this weekend. And there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people out there that really feel like their teams have a chance because it's rivalry week. So anything can happen in rivalry week. Rivalry. There we go. So So, but usually, more often than not, the team who's done the most behind kicking all season does get some behind kicking done. So let's go ahead and see who we got here today. Appreciate you guys so much for showing up on an early Thanksgiving Eve. Not just rocks. Thank you so much for being here. Pizza Woman, Michael Porter, one of our resident members. Thank you much. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, sir. Sorry, a little bit of lag going on tonight. SEC Dog, how's it doing? How's it going, sir? Thank you for checking me out over on Mark Rogers. For those of you who have never heard of Mark Rogers TV, go over and check him out. He's a great broadcaster. The guy does excellent work, works hard. He's got about a bazillion channels, and all of them have great content. If you have a Power 5 team, he's got a channel just for your team, unless it's an SEC team and he's got them all in one. So, yeah. What's going on, Eric Watts? Keith Carr, what's up to the chat, sir? How you doing, sir? D4 Sports, welcome back. Glad to have you here, sir, in addition to glad you're here. Derek Stevens says, Jim Harbaugh eats cereals without milk. Go Buck. Ohio. Yes, sir. People from Ohio like Cheerios because yeah. So, anyway, what's going on, Pizza Woman? Yep. Excited. Want to talk about all these great matchups. Also want to talk about the college football playoff, how everything is kind of rolled out so far, what we're seeing moving forward, how some things could shake out. Hopefully we'll get a guest or two in here and we'll make the show a little more exciting. Yeah. That was a great show, BDB. You represented us well, bro. And no problem, man. Much appreciated. Mark's a great guy. Got a great base. So really enjoyed being on his show. For those of you who've never heard of Mark Rogers TV, please go check him out. Just search Mark Rogers TV in the YouTube chat bar, and you will find him without any problems. Mark Rogers TV, good people over there. Great guy. Was a very gracious host. Also did me the courtesy of filtering out some of my oopses as we were recording that. So very, very distinguished gentleman. Much appreciated, sir. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the chat. We're going to see if anybody wants to join in tonight and talk about what we've got coming up. I'm definitely going to talk about the Georgia Tech game. We're going to talk about the Auburn-Alabama game. We're also going to talk about the Florida State game. We'll talk a little bit about the Clemson-South Carolina game. We're going to talk about the Oklahoma game. We're going to talk about some of the other matchups that's going on. And we will get into it. I promise you guys, if you have a favorite team and you want to talk about that team, all you have to do is throw it over in the chat bar. I'll be glad to discuss it for you. All right, I'm not going to talk about Georgia Tech right out of the gate. I'm going to wait until we get somebody to join the show before we get into that. Tree Fitty, what a great name, sir. What's going on, sir? How you doing? Yes, sir. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go over the schedule. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know. Saturday, I do have plans for Saturday morning, so I'm not going to be able to do the breakfast show that we normally do. Depending on cell phone coverage, I may do a brief show. We may talk a little bit about it. I'm going to try and cover as much as I can tonight so that there's not so much left out for Saturday morning. So, yeah. All right. So, let's see here. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so I can see it better. There we go. There we went. Here we go. There we went. That's not what I wanted. Thank you, sir. OBKB. All right. So, starting... we've actually had some games already this week. We currently have no games tonight, but we do have games just last night, and we have games tomorrow night, and games Friday, and games Saturday. And, so going to be a busy weekend for college football. I'm so excited that we will have a great game in the Mississippi State Ole Miss game on Thanksgiving. That show comes on at 7:30. That game comes on at 7:30. So we're going to be able to sit around and watch that show as we nap. I will try to do halftime reviews, and I will try to do like end of game fan reaction, because this game could prove to be pretty exciting. I was looking at some stuff, and I'm not sure what's going on. Last time I checked, Ole Miss was ranked number 9. Mississippi State was unranked, but if you pull up the betting line, you might be surprised to learn that Mississippi State is the favorite. Yeah, 2-point favorite somehow. I don't understand. Yeah. In this season already, I think I know who this is. Is that what can I do for you, sir?
Oh, end the season. Stop the pain.
Well, they what's the word?
Put me
What's
out
the
of
word?
my misery.
They not put you out of your misery. They stemmed the bloodletting is what they did here.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Same to you, sir. I don't know what we're going to do with you guys as far as the head coach goes. I don't know who you're going to get. I have no idea.
Well, the breaking news that I have been led to believe that we're going to hire on Sunday, it might be as soon as Sunday, will be Napier.
The case for Billy Napier is much stronger. Florida to name Billy Napier the head coach by next week.
That's what the rumor is. It's Billy Napier, from the school of Saban and Sweeney,
the Ragged
and
Cajun.
Other things. Looks like it's going. We're gonna go with the youngster. Fire in the belly and willing to prove himself and all that good cliche shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least he's got some positive motivation to him. Eric Wallace says, your thoughts on the Missouri-Arkansas game? I'm going to take Arkansas in that game by 10 points. But I wanted to, since Celine's already on here, I wanted to show him my did you ever watch The Walking Dead by chance, Celine?
No, I never got into all that zombie nonsense. It's like, shoot them in the head, 10,000 more come after you, keep shooting, lather, rinse, repeat. I don't know.
Yeah, though they had a bad guy on there who I thought was hilarious, but since you didn't watch it much, you probably wouldn't get the joke.
But, I might. You never know.
Well, let's see. There was a character in there named Negan. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He had a saying that he will shut that stuff down, and you can insert the explicative as you prefer. But
yes, sir.
I was just thinking that was the case with having Mullen and a successful football team.
Well, he had his moment in the sun, but that moment passed. What do you think the odds are he ends up in Jacksonville next year, working with Sunshine? Getting the band back together, as it were.
He does not need to coach college football.
No, I don't think he has the I'll say this. I think Mullen had the temperament to coach college football for a while.
Yeah.
I think that fire has been extinguished. Now, whether that fire was chasing and being unable to catch Alabama or chasing and being unable to catch Georgia, I couldn't say. But somewhere along the line, his desire to coach college football is gone away. And I don't know.
So the recruiting aspect, the recruiting aspect for him was terrible, and I think that he really kind of lost the team. Now I'm not sure exactly what happened that made him decide that he didn't want to go out and recruit or whatever. But it's going to be hard to go to another Power 5 school whenever they saw what they saw.
I heard a bright rumor from only one place, but I thought it was kind of funny. It said Mullen to West Virginia.
Not at all. They wouldn't have him there either.
I don't think his act would go over well in West by God, Virginia. I really don't.
I don't either. What's up, Chiquita? He's a little. Well, I don't know how else to say this.
Say whatever you want, man. It's your show.
I try to be respectful as much as I can to everybody involved, but when it comes down to Dan Mullen, about the only place that would tolerate his shenanigans would have been Florida. I can't really find another school that would kind of put up with that nonsensical Darth Vader costume stuff. And,
well, we like to have our fun down in Gainesville. I mean, Gainesville is a fun place to be. It's, there's a lot, it's a looser atmosphere than most places.
It's definitely laid back. That's for sure. I've been to Gainesville. I was going to get out and take pictures and put my Georgia hat on the Bull Gator, but my wife wouldn't let me get out of the car. She said I'd probably end up in a fight. The hat on the Bull Gator probably would have been the only thing that would have bothered him. I thought everybody was laid back there. I thought they'd have been okay with it.
They have their limits, like everybody else.
I think after the first one or two, they might have reconsidered the rest of the altercation. But
well, I mean, I've been to other campuses before as a Florida fan, and most of the time I was treated well. I've never been to Athens, I have to say, but I've been to a few other campuses. The only place I was ever treated badly was Tallahassee, actually, where after winning in Tallahassee, I came back to the parking lot to find all 6 of my windows blown out. Back window, both side windows on both sides, and my windshield caved in.
Wow. You guys must have won the game.
Yeah, we beat them pretty badly, yeah.
Yeah.
The only good thing was it wasn't raining.
Yeah. It's just never mind all the glass you had to ride in.
Well, I drove it to a place with a vacuum, spent about an hour vacuuming out the car, and then drove home in November cold with no windows.
and a busted windshield.
Yeah, well, I had sunglasses.
Yeah, well, that's helpful in 40-degree weather.
Well,
The worst place as far as fan treatment I have ever been where my team was playing was South Carolina. Now, they didn't mess with my car, but the way you have to park at Foghorn Stadium is there's a lot of police presence, a lot, and there's no.
Did you say Foghorn?
Yeah. The Williams-Brice Stadium, the Chicken Stadium, Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought that might be where you were going there, but I just wanted to make sure.
For those in the chat who are too young to know who Foghorn Leghorn is, Foghorn Leghorn is a Looney Tunes cartoon character who has a very thick Southern accent and is always talking himself into trouble by thinking he knows more than he does. Remind you of anybody?
Actually, Big Dog Brett sounds like Foghorn Leghorn, but
I say that is correct. So the numbers don't lie, boy.
Foghorn Leghorn to me was a very underappreciated Looney Tune character.
I have to agree. He was pretty unappreciated. He was unappreciated. You know who else was underappreciated?
The dog in Foghorn Leghorn.
No, the dog was a jerk. I'll tell you one of the characters that I really thought was an absolute genius, but didn't get a whole lot of respect, and it was
Daffy Duck.
No. The Roadrunner.
Yes. Man, he never said a word, but he spoke volumes.
He wasn't just smart. I mean, he wasn't just fast. He was really smart.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I like that guy.
Yeah,
So.
I like them all. In fact, I still have a DVD of Looney Tune cartoons I'll pull out every once in a while when I need a good laugh.
Yeah, we let the kids watch that. That's good stuff.
I think I'll pull it out again after the Florida State game.
Well, I mean, enough Looney Tunes already this season, I thought.
Well, I'll need a good laugh afterwards. Now
What's
I
going
will
on,
be doing a live stream of that game at noon on my channel, and I have promised, no matter how bad the game gets for us, I will not quit.
Well, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a pretty good game, provided the team doesn't quit. But you may find out that the team wasn't all that excited about Dan Mullen, and so they may play even better. It's
well,
hard
we got AR-15 playing. He's starting supposedly, and it is at home for us. It is senior day.
Yeah,
and we do have the opportunity for the second time in a few years to send Florida State home with no bowl and a losing record.
Well,
that's motivation.
What would you guys' record be if?
Well, the loser is 5-7. The winner is 6-6.
So
they have the motivation to send us home with no bowl and a losing record. So
yeah,
but we've done it before.
Went home with a losing record?
No, sent them home with a losing record. They broke a 40-year. Don't you remember a few years ago we broke a 36-year bowl streak and a 40-odd year winning record streak. We did that to them. That was when they were being coached by Taggart.
Yeah, Willie Taggart was terrible. Really, really terrible coach. Let's see. What is your thoughts on the Mississippi State Ole Miss game? Or do you have any?
I do. I was thinking about it earlier, especially after I saw that the line was, well, at the time it was 1.5 points for favored Mississippi State. And what did you say? It was 2.5 now?
Yeah.
That's all wrong. I mean, Mississippi State has shown nothing this year. I mean, I granted it's at home, but Ole Miss, for as much as I hate Kiffin, is the better team. I mean, they have the firepower. I mean, the defense is a little better this year than last year. Oh, Bigfoot doesn't show me anything. I don't see why. Ole Miss is the road dog here. I don't get it.
Well,
I think Ole Miss is going to roll.
I do too. I mean, and by the way, welcome to the stream, Keith. Even by the numbers, it doesn't make sense because you've got Ole Miss scores more points per game. They have more total points overall. They've scored more touchdowns. They have more first downs. They have more rushing first downs. They have quite a few less passing first downs. But, I mean, total offensive plays, I mean, it's, everything else. Now, Mississippi State, I guess, runs that hurry-up offense. They have 848 offensive plays versus Ole Miss at 491. But I can't see that being a big enough of a factor to want to flip it the other way.
If I were a betting man, I'd take Ole Miss and the points and laugh my happy ass all the way to the pay window.
Oh, no kidding. I don't understand this one. What's that? Sometimes somebody knows something you don't know. Is this one of those games where somebody knows something you don't know? It must
be. I mean, if I were a betting man, I'd take Ole Miss and give me the points, and I don't have any money. It's all wrapped up in little things that go TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at they lost to Arkansas, Ole Miss beat Arkansas. They lost to Alabama by a bigger margin than Ole Miss did. They lost to Auburn by, I believe, they beat Auburn, and Ole Miss lost to Auburn, but that was a month ago. Ole Miss, I don't get it, man. I don't get this one.
I don't understand it. I'm going to watch the game because, well, You
What's
know,
going on,
it's
Ballard?
Thanksgiving night. There's nothing really else going
yeah.
on. And I
It's
sure
not.
as hell ain't watching that pro crap.
That's
What's
pretty
up,
much
D4?
what's up, man?
What's up, D4?
What's up, y'all?
That
So
game's
what's
pretty
your-
much a coin flip, right? I mean,
That's what
No,
they're
I don't
saying.
think it's a coin flip. I think it's a clear win for Ole
no,
Miss.
I mean, as far as the line goes,
Yeah, the line says
Yeah.
coin flip, but for me, I'm struggling with this one because I'm looking
The
at it
line
going,
don't
I
make
mean-
no sense.
yeah. I mean, technically, the way I look at it is what the home team usually gets 3 points. So the fact
Yeah.
that it's a 2-point almost is actually in favor of Ole Miss, honestly. But
Well, the Florida State game is we're favored by 2.5, but that makes
Yeah.
sense because it's a home game.
yeah, I was trying to hop in here to talk about that game. I think that's one of the more compelling games to watch this weekend.
I
The
think it's one of the more
storylines and
gut-wrenching games,
Yeah,
but that's
I mean,
just me.
the storylines going into that game with Florida, with the new interim coach, it's obvious that the team that Mullen had lost the players, and so are they going to respond now to Knox and play tough for them?
Well,
And because I mean,
better late than never.
yeah, I mean, you look at, I mean, they don't have a whole lot to play for, but I mean, this is rivalry weekend, and you got an opportunity to knock your rival out of a bowl game. I mean, that's
Well,
something
I've
to play
always
for.
said that
That's awesome.
if I was guaranteed only one win per year
Yeah.
as a Florida Gator, this would be the game I want. If I was going to go 1-11, fine.
Yeah.
The one win I want is against Florida State.
Yeah. So both teams are going to be playing knock the other one out of a bowl opportunity. I mean, that game is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the better games to watch as far as being a competitive matchup. I mean, there's a lot of games on rivalry weekend that we just know is not going to be competitive. Baylor versus Texas Tech, that's not going to be a close game. Michigan State versus Penn State, that shouldn't be a close game. Tennessee versus Vanderbilt shouldn't be a close game. And honestly, the Clemson versus South Carolina shouldn't be a close game. But Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State could be extremely interesting.
Did you see or hear? You came in too late, but Ballard actually called South Carolina to win the game against Clemson. He actually said it on my stream within the first 15 minutes. Go, if you don't believe me, go look. It's on there. When I opened up the yard, he came on and he said Clemson's going to lose to South Carolina.
Has he watched the way Clemson has played here as of late?
I don't know, but
Clemson has been steadily improving. Their last
and
four
defense
games,
good all
their
year.
last 4 games they've scored at least 30 points. 2 of those games, 44 or more. It really, and if you look at their schedule, you go, okay, they really struggled to find an identity early on. They really struggled early on, and I think a lot of people got a bad impression for them. But if you go back and you look at how they've played since then, they've really done much better. They've really done much better. They held UConn to 7 points, which, I mean, that's 44-7. Sounds like a Georgia game. 48-27, and Wake Forest was ranked what at the time? 10th,
Like
8th,
9, I think.
yeah, something like that. And they held those guys to 27 points. Wake Forest has been beating everybody they played solidly. I don't think South Carolina has anything on their record to make me think they can do anything against Clemson. I mean, they're allowing. They did okay against Auburn that was missing a Bo Nix, so they were playing with a backup quarterback who was struggling. They allowed 28 points from Mizzou. They did okay against Florida. They let 44 points Texas A&M. They almost lost to Vandy. They got blown out by Tennessee. I think that Clemson's hitting its stride right now. I think they're going to be extremely hard to beat.
I agree. What about have you? I might have missed it. I might come in a little late, but have you said anything about Michigan, Ohio State yet?
No, I was waiting to get some more people in here for that one. I really kind of want to get D4's opinion on that one. He's more versed with that group of people than I am.
I forgot to click the thumbs up, so I just did that.
Yeah, it'd be a great idea.
Ohio State, I don't think it's going to be close. Personally, I think that Ohio State defense has come a long way since the beginning of the year when Muhammad Ibrahim from Minnesota ran all over them.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that, Michigan is a two-headed monster back there at running back, but I think they're going to cause them to be so one-dimensional. And with C.J. Stroud and those 3 receivers that they got that could start anywhere in this country, I think they're going to carve them up like they did Michigan State. Well,
I gotta ask you a question here. This game's being played in Michigan, and it's a noon game. I think that Michigan's going to get up for this game. I think their fans are going to show up. How big of a factor do you think the fans are going to be in this particular game? Because the tickets are pretty expensive for, these two teams to be playing at the end of the year. These tickets are, 10 times the price of what some tickets are here available.
To me, any rivalry game, fans are going to – you look at Jordan Hare – anytime Alabama goes in there and the mystique happens, any rivalry game like that, I think the crowd's going to play a factor. But I just don't think Michigan has enough to get it done.
So you're thinking Ohio State over Michigan. All right, Keith, what do you think?
I definitely think Ohio State over Michigan. I mean, Michigan hasn't done anything in the past forever to make me think that they're fixing to beat Ohio State. I don't think Michigan beats Ohio State until they get a new coach. So, I don't think it's going to be anything near what we saw with Ohio State and Michigan State. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that, but I think Ohio State wins comfortably. I think the world is just waiting on the Ohio State UGA national championship game, right? I mean, It's kind of the yin yang you want to see, right? Probably the best offense in college football, probably against the best defense in college football. I mean, That's the matchup we want to see.
I mean, this is a historic defense, no matter how you slice it, how you want to look at it. This is an absolutely phenomenal defense. And it draws into sharp contrast what the thought process has been for success in college football in the past 3, 4, 5 years. And that thought process has been to have an overwhelming offense. And now you have the number 1 team in the nation who is really the number 1 team in the nation based off of their defense, not based off of their offensive capability. We do have offensive capability. You have to have that, at some level to be effective. But it's the defense. Like if all of these games, if Georgia was winning these games by 7 or 8 points, Georgia probably would not be the number 1 team in the country. They would likely be number 2, and they probably would have put Alabama in the number 1 spot by now. And I mean, and that's just because of the past history. But because of the prevalence of the defense, we're really looking at teams that, which one's going to win? The shield that can stop anything or the spear that can pierce anything. One of them's got to give. And if it ends up being Georgia versus Ohio State, that'll be a matchup for the ages, because you're already going to get a huge game in Georgia, Alabama, and everybody in the country is going to tune in and watch that game. And if Georgia wins that game, Georgia ends up going into the national championship, obviously as the number 1 seed. Ohio State will likely by that point, especially if they beat number 5, they're going to stay as a number 2. They're going to stay number 2. Then Georgia's probably going to play. I don't even know who we're going to play at this point. It might end up being Cincinnati if everything rolls a weird way. But
you'll beat them like a drum. That would be that matchup isn't even fair.
I agree, but I'll be honest with you, I don't want it to be fair.
I think if Georgia play,
no, I understand that, but I mean, there's not fair, and then there's out there in left field not fair. Beating up on Cincinnati isn't going to. Know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think Georgia. I think if Georgia, stays number 1, I think our first round opponent will be Cincinnati, because I don't think.
You never know. It might be Oklahoma State.
barring some craziness, I think Cincinnati stays at 4. I don't see the playoff committee moving them higher than that unless just some craziness happens.
I honestly don't think they should even be 4th. I mean, if you've got Oklahoma State comes in either undefeated or one loss, winning the conference champion, and I don't even think it's an argument, a better conference than whatever conference Cincinnati is playing in, and overall, what is the phrase? Overall work. Their overall season is a better work product than Cincinnati's. I don't see how you put Cincinnati in over Oklahoma State. I mean,
Oklahoma State quality win. I mean, yeah, I agree to some degree, but I mean, this Cincinnati team beat Notre Dame. So, I mean,
that's not really a hell of an accomplishment in my eyes, but that's, that's my opinion. But
I mean, the quality win that Oklahoma.
Let's say we look objectively and you beat Oklahoma. Lovely. That's one Power 5 team versus a whole season of Power 5 teams that you ran through to win the Big 12. Admittedly, not the greatest conference in the country.
Yeah, I mean, they only played, 2 ranked teams so far.
Well, Indiana is, that doesn't look like a great win right now, and even Notre Dame doesn't look like a great win compared to if you say you're Oklahoma State, you beat Oklahoma, you beat Texas, you beat, just Oklahoma and Texas alone beating them versus Indiana and Notre Dame. I mean,
beating us don't mean shit this year.
All I'm saying is I think Oklahoma State deserves to be ranked ahead. A Big 12, either undefeated or one-loss Big 12 team deserves to be
if they were undefeated,
ahead of an undefeated Group of 5 team.
Yeah, I agree.
Looks great, but
if Oklahoma State was undefeated, no doubt they would be above Cincinnati. They'd be in the top 4. But
are they undefeated right now? I don't remember.
No, Oklahoma State's got a loss. They lost to who was that? Iowa State, I think. Yeah, is that what that is?
So as of right now, I think there's only 3 teams left that are undefeated, and it's Georgia.
Georgia's the only Power 5 type, I think.
And Utsa.
Who's the other one?
Utsa, UTSA.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else has got at least one loss. So, I mean, in a strange world, and nobody's really talking about this, in a strange world, Notre Dame could end up as a number 4 seed. Georgia, because let's say Ohio State loses to Michigan, they're out. Or if Michigan loses, one of those teams is out. So Notre Dame's automatically going to move to the 5 spot. If Georgia loses to Alabama, they'll probably drop to 4, but no further. So Notre Dame's going to be at the 5 spot. So then if Ohio State loses in a championship game, that gives them 2 losses. That's going to bump Notre Dame to 4, Cincinnati up to 3, and then, you see what I mean? It gets weird. I mean, you could end up with an Oklahoma State. It could wind up that it's Georgia, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma State. It could absolutely end up that way.
And that would be, in my humble opinion, the weakest Final Four we've had in the playoff era. Georgia wins. I mean, they might as well just crown you right then.
Oh, I mean, I'm fine with that.
I know you're fine with that, but I mean, so
look,
weak.
You got your coach fired, so you got what you wanted this year. Can I get what I want, please? Can we do that?
I'm not trying to keep you from what you want, but you got to earn it. I had to earn Mullen getting fired. I had to earn Grantham getting fired through pain and agony and embarrassment.
This is the first time Georgia's went 11-0 since 1982. I'd say that's earning some stuff.
I earned what I got, and you know what? The best part of it is finally going to not have to listen to Megan Mullen jokes anymore.
We can always find a way to bring those back. I mean, if you really want.
But now you look silly.
I'm a Georgia fan. I'm used to that.
Breaking news.
Yeah, I know that.
Mrs. Mullins left Dan Mullen and has reportedly been engaged to Billy Napier.
So you work for CNN now? Because that is
yeah. So I've got on my we're gonna change gears here. I've got on my my Georgia State champ shirt from 2015. Yes, it still fits, but this shirt is from the it's probably one of the few shirts you'll ever see that actually has this on the back.
you can't see it. The microphone's in the way.
Yeah, well,
Oh, okay. Stand up. Okay. Our state of game day and every day. Dogs 13, Jackets 7.
yeah.
That's all you managed to score against Georgia Tech?
That was Mark Richt days, man. You're lucky. You're lucky to win those games. You won them, but you didn't win them by much. But at the top of the shirt, which the top
sometimes
of the shirt,
you didn't.
can't see.
Sometimes you didn't win them at all.
Yeah. I think he beat Mark Richt 4 or 5 times the whole time he was there. But the top of the shirt says the clean old fashioned hate game. So since 2000, since the year of 2000, Georgia Tech has beat Georgia 4 times. That's it.
It's a pretty good record for Georgia.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good.
16-4, 17-4. Sorry.
The overall record is
no 16-4. I can do math. Yes.
Yeah, the overall record is 68-39. And before the Georgia Tech fans start jumping up and down, which we don't really see many of those, they're going to say the record is 68-41. There's a lot of controversy in Georgia's history about the way things were done. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of history lesson here real quick. I find it fascinating. If you don't, you can always fast forward after the show's over, but otherwise you got to stick with it. During wartime, which was the years of 1943 and 1944, there was talks of not playing the games, suspending the games entirely. And the U.S. Navy actually established technical training schools at the colleges and universities under the V-12 program. And I'm not going to get into what all that is. But basically, here's what happened. Georgia Tech got to pick all of their players from all of the military guys that were good enough and in shape and healthy enough to join the military and be in the V-12 program. The University of Georgia had to pick guys that were either were too young to join the military or couldn't physically pass the exam. So Georgia's football team those years were made up of underage guys and guys that couldn't pass the physical aptitude to get in. Of course, Georgia lost both of those games, but we weren't playing with those elite guys. So we don't count those games. And if any Georgia Tech fan wants to jump up and down and beat their chest about how they beat us those 2 years, it just kind of goes to show you, how desperate they are to take wins against Georgia.
Well, Brett, you gotta let your little brother have one or two every once in a while.
No.
All right, I'm just throwing it out. I mean, I was told by my dad to every once in a while let my sister win at something, just so she kept coming back. She didn't lose that encouragement.
I'm just glad
we let them play
anymore.
Yeah. That's the one good thing about them changing head coaches, which they're probably about to change head coaches again, is that they got rid of the triple option. And that cut blocking they used to do, man, it used to absolutely make my blood boil.
Well, to have it before the SEC championship game, when you literally have guys diving at our ankles, and then the next week you have to go play SEC championship game.
Yep.
And there was more
Georgia
times
Tech's
than not.
coach on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that about the old Georgia Tech. They used to block Georgia pretty low. I always wondered why the refs didn't call that. And I did actually think every once in a while, they got to play next week in a championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That cannot be good for their health.
Yeah, they were always cutting that out. I mean, they were always cutting the outside guy to get that option around the corner or to or to get the little dump pass into the corner over there. They would chop those guys down pretty hardcore. It wasn't uncommon at all to have lower leg injuries going into the SEC championship game for us.
Yep. Or
I remember the year. I remember the year we won the in 08 when we won the Natty. We played Florida State at the last game, and they kept tackling Percy Harvin pretty low, and finally did actually injure him, took him out of the game, and he wasn't available for the SEC championship game, and it was harder for us to win that game. And then the national game, he was barely healthy enough to play, and there were like one or two plays where he should have just run away from the Oklahoma defenders, and he couldn't accelerate fast enough. And even the guys who were calling the game said, yeah, if Harvin was at 100%, that was a touchdown.
Yeah, and
so thank you, Florida State, for playing dirty again.
Well, yeah. Well, to kind of go back to the Georgia Tech triple option problem, in the first few years that Kirby Smart was here, they still had the triple option. And he said at the end of the very first season, the reason they done so well against it is because they dedicated a practice period every week to dealing with the triple option and the cut blocks, because he did not want their guys to have only 1 week to prepare for how to deal with the cut blocks. And so think about that. Without that kind of preparation and forward thinking, it's very likely Georgia would not have made it to the national championship game in 2017.
Yeah, true.
So there's watching players dive at other players' legs, possibly ending their careers for a few yards. It should infuriate every player out there. The reason the chop block is illegal is because of how dangerous it is. The cut block should be illegal too. That's just my opinion. Not everybody hates Alabama. Alabama fans love Alabama. Worst part about sleeping with it, if you're from Alabama, the worst part about sleeping with your cousin is it makes your brother jealous. I mean, that's what I heard.
Can I borrow that?
You can have it.
Oh,
no, we got a lot of good Alabama fans in here, and they put up with a lot. They're good people, so I like
most of them. I could name one or two in here that ain't so.
Hey, when you're at the top of the totem pole, man, there's always target on your back, man. Always. So
I saw Sea-Dog put up. I just got an alert on my screen. Sea-Dog put up a video. So another hate video from Sea-Dog.
Give me 1 second here. I'm going to respond to an email.
All right.
I'll just a heads up. I'm gonna actually be at the game. I learned that. I'm gonna go to the Tech game this weekend.
Oh, there you go, man.
Yeah,
I wish I could go. I got to make an out of town trip.
Yeah.
Is it in Athens or Atlanta?
It's in Atlanta.
It's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You got your Kevlar ready?
Yeah. Hey,
Newsflash: Keith actually lives.
I work downtown all the time, so
I knew that. I'm not noob here.
But don't get it twisted though. I was say don't. I definitely go prepared. Let me put it that
way. Get the hell out of there before the sun goes down.
He has a very fast car.
I used to live in the metro. I never actually ever worked downtown, but I had to go downtown sometimes for work. That was never a lot of fun, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be
that was a long time ago.
Going downtown Atlanta, like there's some places that aren't bad at all, and there's some places that are terrifying. There are some places that are absolutely scary, that you look at your GPS and say, what is the fastest way out of here to anywhere but here?
Well, I wasn't exactly thrilled to death where we were. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't exactly making me comfortable.
Yeah.
Actual downtown Atlanta, like the downtown part, not Midtown's all right. It's a lot of cool stuff in Midtown, but if you're in actual downtown, like old downtown Atlanta, there's a lot of there's a lot of like
shady shit.
Yeah, a lot of it's just very sad. Put it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of homeless people down
depressing.
there.
Yeah,
it is quite depressing. But I mean, but I'll be honest with you, when you're in your car, most of the time, nobody messes with you.
Yeah.
But I would not, for the life of me, would not get out of my car down there. If I suddenly blew a tire, I'm gonna drive it just like it is. Somehow I'll buy a new rim.
Yeah, I've worked downtown for years, and I've never been messed with at all.
Yeah.
But it's there are definitely places where you're just like, all right, hurry up, light, let's go.
I always made sure when I was downtown in my car and I was coming to a light, I always made sure I left a good sized gap between the car in front of me.
Yeah.
And I always try to stay in the inside lane to the opposing traffic side. So if I needed to go, I could just hook left and go.
Yep.
In case somebody came up or something like that. Because, yeah.
All right. Well,
I learned to drive with in downtown Atlanta with the idea of there will always be an escape route for me.
The worst thing now, really, is these kids that they have selling water. Man, I mean, they have kids on the corners like selling water, which is fine. You know, I mean, I'm all for people making their money, man. But they're dangerous, dude. They'll like straight run out in front of your car when you're stopped at a red light. They're trying to sell people water, and it's just, I mean, these kids are like
it's one of those
13, 14 years old running around the road.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, those guys might be 100% on the up and up trying to make $1, and that's fine. But whether I need the water or not, here's $1. Just give me my water. I'll be on my way. I don't want no problems.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if that guy decides he's having a bad day, $1 water ain't worth the windshield. I'm just saying. The Green Soldier, which I think he just jumped off, but I'm going to go ahead and respond to him. He says, how awesome is it that we can afford to rest players in the last 2 weeks of the season, whereas Bama has to play a tough Arkansas team and their bitter rival at AU? The bitter rival at AU thing is not so much of a factor right now, at least in my opinion, because Bo Nix is out for the season. So I don't think that the quarterback they're going to put in is going to have enough real-time game experience to deal with the speed of Alabama. That's just my opinion. I do want to talk a little bit about the quarterback situation at UGA. And I know the show is going to run long, but I feel like it's something we got to talk about. But before we get there, I want to go ahead and kind of I won't say get through, but I do want to talk about the other games that are going on. D4, I know you guys have an exciting rivalry week game with your arch nemesis. Is it Kansas?
Kansas State.
Kansas State, yeah. Out of all the teams in Texas, how in the world did y'all end up with that as a rivalry game during rivalry week?
You'd think it'd be Tech or Baylor or something like some other Texas team.
TCU.
But it's always Kansas State.
That's a sad event, sir. Now, to be honest with you, you might actually win that game.
We couldn't beat their little brother.
He said he couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. I understand. Texas Rock says, Eric Wallace, we got a team full of spoiled crybabies that were taught by Herman. I'm not getting into that. I try to keep politics out of it, man. I really do. Because you can go down a rabbit hole over there, and no matter which side you pick, you're gonna make a bunch of people mad. So I just stay out of it entirely. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I just stay out of it. What other games here are worth talking about? Oregon State, nah. Mississippi State. I mean, Michigan State versus Penn State, nah. How about the Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State?
I'm hoping that's a good game.
I'm picking Oklahoma State straight up.
I'm picking
Oklahoma State.
I'm taking Oklahoma.
I think I got Oklahoma State in that game too. I mean, Oklahoma just it feels like they want to lose every weekend to me.
Yeah. And if you go back and you look at their past performances, they have been dominant. Their defense is absolutely been playing lights out. They allowed 3 points against KU, 3 points against West Virginia, only 17 TCU, a shutout TTU. Some of their games are scoring 50 and 60 points here late in the season. Now, when the season started early, I think they were getting some kinks worked out. And I think that loss to Iowa State really woke them up because they've been playing lights out ever since then.
I think Oklahoma State, for the first time in a long time, can smell opportunity, and I think that's going to keep them going through Oklahoma.
Oh, 100%,
and into the championship game.
They beat Iowa State by 28 points versus where Oklahoma State lost to Iowa State. But for me, I mean, I just think that they've been all over the board. I don't see any consistency. Their defense seems to allow about 25 points a game. Oklahoma's allowing, in the last 4 games, they're allowing 6 points a game average. Thereabouts, a little under 6 points a game. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one, man. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one.
Going to be a fun game to watch, I think.
Oh, definitely. Clemson, South Carolina. As much as I want to pull for an SEC team, I don't see this happening.
Yeah, give me Clemson.
Yeah, I'm taking Clemson, and I'll take Clemson by 10 points in that game. Easy 10 points.
Definitely. I don't even care that it's being played in Columbia. Clemson.
I don't either. Clemson owns that stadium anyway. It's Clemson South. So
you imagine, though, if Clemson does somehow lose this game, I can imagine that old Pixie and Pete will be inconsolable.
Yeah, I think that's a not strong enough choice of words for his language. Now, Carolina Jackpot. Yeah, Carolina Jackpot would be the happiest man on the planet, but
Carolina Jackpot is going to suffer liver failure after this game.
Probably.
I mean, he will be a textbook example of cirrhosis of the liver.
Possibly. All right, so I do want to talk about the controversy, however you want to look at it, between Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels. I feel like it's the elephant in the room we have to address, and I feel like we haven't been fair about this, or at least the Georgia fan base is extremely divided yet again on another quarterback controversy. So first take, I want to give Keith a first take because he's probably the most versed in this besides me. He probably is probably even more versed than I am. But what is your opinion on the Stetson Bennett JT Daniels debacle?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point it isn't a controversy. I mean, I think Bennett's the dude. I think I think that's – I mean, I see Greg, making a comment, imagine if Kirby starts Bennett in the SEC championship game. He is. I mean, he absolutely is. Stetson's the starting quarterback for the rest of the season as far as it appears. And I don't think he's done anything to not be. I don't know what it is that JT has done to not be, other than just not be healthy. And the opportunity that he has gotten in there, he's just, he's not blown us away. There's not any significant uptick in our passing game when JT's in there from what we've seen so far. Bennett is not the quarterback we saw last year. I'm not the guy's biggest fan. I wish we had JT or somebody like that in there just from day one calling the shots. I think we would have been, we'd be in a great position. But I think Bennett at this point has shown that he can make the big passes. He's hit some huge ones. If you just go back and just pull up YouTube and just Google 2021 highlights of Stetson Bennett, there's quite a few videos that break down how good he's played this year. And I judging him on what we had last year, thinking that he can't win the big game, I think the kid has learned to run. I think he's learned to get rid of the ball. I think he's learned to keep his eyes downfield when he does have to run. And these are things he didn't do last year. And I'm not real sure that his play is going to be as vital to us winning this year as it was last year. So I'm not that concerned. As long as he can, as long as we don't have to come from a huge deficit, because we haven't seen him have to do that yet. I'm just not concerned. I mean, he's made some huge throws, huge decisions, been very good on third down, and he's got some hellacious targets to throw it to with Bowers and McConkey. And he's got great options to get rid of the ball. So, I think Georgia's, it's a luxury to have a guy like Bennett to just step in when your potential starting quarterback is hurt. So,
all right. So I'm going to throw some stats out there, and I want you to tell me whether you think it's JT, and anybody can chime in, JT or Stetson. Okay. Completion percentage above 69% versus non-conference opponents, JT or Stetson?
Above 69 versus non-conference.
Yeah.
JT.
Okay.
Stetson?
I have no idea. I would imagine.
I'm not really a stats.
How about both? Trick question.
Both?
Both of these quarterbacks have a 69 and one has a 69.2. Stetson actually has the higher completion percentage versus non-conference opponents. Average yards per pass at home games, 6.7 yards.
JT.
I have no idea. I'd have to say average. I'd say probably Bennett. I think Bennett's probably thrown more shorter passes on average than JT has.
How about at home? At home, 6.7 is the average for JT Daniels. 9.2 for Stetson. That's this season.
Yeah.
2020 stats. And this is just overall 2020 stats. Which quarterback do you think threw for 10.3 yards per average, and which quarterback threw for 7.6?
JT probably threw for more on average because he had a couple of 400-yard games. He only played in 4. So
JT Daniels threw for 10.3 last season. Okay. Who threw for 10.6 this season and who threw for 7.7?
I'm going to say Stetson.
Good question.
Stetson probably has the highest average this year.
Correct. Stetson does have a higher average. Completion percentage this year for JT Daniels is 72%. Completion percentage for Stetson is 64%. However, the average is longer. JT Daniels has 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, which is a nearly 50% completion to interception rate or touchdown to interception rate, versus Stetson Bennett at 17-5, which is 3 times and some change. If you actually sit down and you look at the stats wise, the completion percentage for conference opponents at home is favored Stetson Bennett. Away, conference opponents away heavily favors JT Daniels, almost 78%. But non-conference play is 69%. So if we're playing an away opponent, he's better. But in all the other categories, Stetson outshines him. He outshines him in average pass per for home, average pass per away, and average pass per non-conference. The non-conference, by the way, it's not even a contest. It's 15-1 or 15-5.
I think Bennett. When you add in his ability to scramble on third down, I don't think. I can completely see why he's playing instead of JT at this point. It's like I said earlier. I don't think when you look at him as a pure passer, there isn't this huge uptick in potential, passing prowess that you would expect with JT if, from what we heard coming into the season. Everything we heard coming into the season that he was going to be, a Heisman hopeful, that he was going to, light everybody on fire. And, admittedly he's been hurt, but even when he hasn't been hurt, the times that we've seen him, it's not this huge difference, I know everybody says that he's much smarter before the play, and maybe that's true. I haven't seen evidence of that either, and I'm not cutting down JT. That's not something that we would particularly see his fans with the little bit of time that we've seen him. But I'm comfortable in saying that I think JT has, or I think Stetson has every bit of talent that's needed to win any game that we're in this year.
I agree. The big thing that I look at, and I have to be a big factor, and I think that this goes back to, people being conditioned, especially over the past 3 or 4 years, of you've got to have an elite quarterback to win games. My understanding, and from what I've been hearing, is the way that we see JT in the games is the JT that the coaches are seeing in practice. And so because of that, I think it's going to be difficult for any quality coach to say, well, we're just going to give it back to JT. When Stetson's winning the way he's winning, what is he doing that would make you believe that you, number one, need to pull him? And number two, what is the difference? How big of a gap do you think it is between where JT is now, or excuse me, where Stetson is now, to where you imagine JT to be? Because if you imagine JT Daniels to be, I don't know, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or somebody, there's not so big of a gap that the defense is not going to be able to cover that. If it's that thin of a line, neither quarterback is going to win it, in my opinion.
I mean, I may come off as a JT hater, and I don't want to sound that way, but because I think some lofty expectations have been put on JT since he became a college quarterback. And I don't think he's lived up to them anywhere he's been yet. And that is probably because the expectations were too high. I mean, I think he is a good quarterback. I'm starting to come to grips with the idea that he is not as good as everybody wants or thinks he is. And so, I know he's got a raw deal this year, being hurt. I imagine he probably comes back next year to play again for Georgia. And hopefully, he has the year that everybody thought he was going to have this year. But at this point, I haven't seen anything that makes me think he should start over over Stetson.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely wanted JT Daniels to play. I believe JT Daniels, from what I've seen, has a higher ceiling. But I've also got to take into consideration how long Stetson Bennett has been at Georgia, and he's developed some deep relationships with those guys. There's a lot of cohesions. The past few games, he's looked better than he's ever looked. And I think that we get this criticism about how good JT Daniels is. How good JT Daniels is whenever he came in and pulled us out of that hole that, in some of the games last season where Stetson was struggling. I think if JT Daniels was clearly the better player, we'd know by now. I think some of the history that we see at the quarterback position at Georgia causes us to doubt the coaching staff there, and that's probably unfair. Now, who do I think has a higher ceiling? Oh, I think JT Daniels has a higher ceiling by far if he's healthy. But the guy's been banged up so much, now I have to question, well, if he's the starting quarterback and he's getting as many snaps as he is, and we get to late season and he gets busted up, now we got to put in a Stetson Bennett who's nowhere near as sharp as he could have been because we've had him sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Can I throw an idea out that I don't hear anyone discussing?
Sure.
But
sure.
I don't know why y'all aren't discussing it, but because I watched Georgia fairly extensively last year and, somewhat extensively this year. The difference that I don't see anyone talking about is between, two of them really. I mean, 2020 Stetson Bennett didn't have a lot of playing time when he was put in. And he played quite a bit in 2020. And I think that helped him improve and become a better quarterback in 2021. I mean, it's a simple fact of just repetition. Yeah. I mean, he had reps in 2020 and he got a little better each time he took a snap. Maybe it was only, finite percentage points better, but he got better with every snap.
Yeah.
And that translated over into this year. But I think more importantly, and this is the part that I don't understand why nobody speaks on it, is last year y'all's defense wasn't quite what it is this year. I mean, this year, let's face it, your defense is lights out. You're taking names and smacking fools around. Nobody except Tennessee is scoring more than 10 points. And even Tennessee only put up 17. So Bennett or Daniels, for that matter, who's ever taking snaps and playing offense, doesn't have to play as hard in 2021 versus 2020 because your defense is playing shutdown, lights out, send them to bed without their supper. And I think that's the main difference in Georgia 2020 versus 21. Your quarterback doesn't have to be a superstar.
Right.
He can be a game manager like Bennett. And Bennett is doing better than managing the game. But, if I was the coach and I had my choice between Bennett and Daniels, I would be trying to get Daniels in there because I think, like you said, his ceiling is higher and he's more of an athlete, even though he seems to be more made of glass than Bennett.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is it doesn't matter who's taking snaps because your defense is shutting everyone in the universe down, and they weren't doing that in 2020. I don't know why people aren't bringing that up more because that's what I see as a semi-disinterested outsider wearing orange and blue. Go Gators.
Well, yeah, I was definitely gonna say earlier that one of the things that both quarterbacks have benefited from this year is being able to get the ball back. Our defense is getting them the ball.
More important than the defense is giving you the ball, the defense isn't putting you in a hole by letting the other team score. I mean, if the other team isn't scoring, then your offense isn't under constant pressure to perform. I mean, they can have a bad series and maybe not score a touchdown or maybe not score at all. And your defense is there to backstop them.
Yep.
That's what I'm seeing is the biggest difference in Georgia 2020 versus 21.
Yeah.
Is your defense is backstopping your offense.
Yep.
Pretty damn good.
And that's what I was saying. Like, I think one of Bennett's criticisms is even from last year is what happens if we get behind? Does he have what it takes to bring us from behind? And I think that's what everybody thinks JT has because of his ability to throw downfield. But again, I'm not real sure that he's going to be bringing some magical, skill that Bennett doesn't have. And if you know anything about Bennett and watch any of his videos, this dude is, he's got the respect of his teammates for a reason. That dude works his tail off. And he's always wanted to be a Georgia quarterback. And so I think last year he kind of got to call himself Georgia's QB1. And I think he liked the taste of that. And then it got taken away from him. And so I don't have any knowledge of this, but I can guarantee you that kid worked his rear end off during the offseason to be in the position he's in right now because – he looks like a completely different person.
He doesn't.
What? I think he heard all the chatter out in the Twitterverse and the Book of Faceverse and all that crap being talked about him. And he said, he took it. I think he took it to heart and worked his ass off, like you said. I do see improvement in the 2021 Bennett. He's he physically isn't much better than he was last year, but his decision making is a lot better. His passes are crisper, and like you guys said earlier, he's learned to move. And he's also making the decisions to either chuck the ball away or when it's possible, or in some cases, take a sack. If it means live to fight another day, and I don't think he has to work as hard because his defense is better.
Yeah,
he doesn't even have the constant pressure of having to play from behind. When is Georgia behind any time this year?
We've been behind 2 times this year, and that's it.
Oh my God! So you see, you just made my point. I mean, you haven't had to play from behind.
If you look at that Tennessee game. they had that one play that kind of is a microcosm, I think, of Bennett. I think it was the Tennessee game where he scrambles and it looks like he's going to run, and like right at the line of scrimmage, he dumps the ball downfield, and it's like that right there is maturity. That's maturity. It's like it's like he's decided to run, but while he's running and after he's made the decision to run, instead of looking for the defenders to determine where you're going to run and how to avoid the hits, he's got his eyes downfield looking for receivers all the way up until the line of scrimmage. And he could have ran for probably 4 or 5 yards, but he dumped it downfield for 10 or 15 at the last second. And I mean, that's not a play that that's not a play that JT Daniels probably will ever make in his career. And that's not a play that Stetson Bennett would have made last year.
Well, if you go back through the list of Georgia quarterbacks, you wouldn't have seen Grayson Lambert do it. You really wouldn't have seen Jacob Eason do it. You wouldn't have seen Jake Fromm do it. Georgia fans have been wanting a mobile quarterback for years, not necessarily a dual threat, but a mobile quarterback.
It was Aaron Murray-esque. That's what Bennett has looked like this year to me.
Yep.
Is a lot like Aaron Murray, where it's like he's not going to just take off and run, but he can if you put pressure on him. He has the ability to. But at the same time, if you're careful, if you're not careful, he's going to carve you up too. He's got the ability to throw. I mean, you look at some of the passes he's thrown this year, particularly into the end zone. He's put some touch on some passes in the end zone.
That one at James Cook was the prettiest ball.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, he threw one at the Mizzou game, I think, on 4th down. It was like a 20-something yard pass to the corner of the end zone. It was just like,
you know who Bennett reminds me of in the pro game when I actually did watch the pro game.
Don't say Cam Newton.
No, not fucking Cam Newton. Come on, man. Sorry, I'm not supposed to curse on this.
No,
but you remember the Baltimore Ravens, or even better, the first Tampa Bay Buck Super Bowl. I can't remember the quarterback's name. It's right. I can picture him right in front of me, but he was no superstar quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. But he managed the game, and then Tampa Bay in 2004, I think it was, had a monster defense and just blew guys off the ball.
You talking about Brad Johnson?
Yeah, Brad Johnson. Thank you. Game manager, decent enough quarterback, could make throws. Was a good pro, seasoned veteran. He knew enough not to lose you the game, but he wasn't somebody that you're 2 touchdowns behind with 6 minutes left in the game. How are you going to win the game for us? He's not that close. But you know what I mean. That's what
I know exactly what you mean. So while we're talking about quarterbacks, we got Crimson Brave over here getting all fired up. He says, Pastor Dave, but remember, Bryce folds under pressure. And then he comes back and he says, these idiots don't even realize – he's not talking about us. He's talking about people in the stream. Don't even realize he has the highest completion percentage and has the highest QBR under pressure. And while he does, and that those things are great, he hasn't done any of that against Georgia, which is the number 1 defense in the country, and it ain't close. And number 2, he had to have a record-setting game to beat who last week? He had to throw for over 500 yards to win by 1 touchdown. So what you're telling me is if Georgia can put up as much offense as Arkansas did and just stop him from scoring 1 more touchdown, Georgia wins? I'll take that.
See, Big Dog Brett doesn't need a Roman triumph. He just needs a 1-point win.
That's it.
Let me ask you this. I got an interesting question. What point total, if I were to tell you that Alabama was going to score this amount of points, would you say that Georgia probably loses the game?
35.
Yeah, I was going to say 30 to 35. And so if you're Alabama, I know they're probably not coaching this way, but it's like, you could say we need to score. I think if you told an Alabama fan that they're going to score 30 points against Georgia, I think they would probably feel pretty good about that.
So do you think this Georgia-Alabama SEC championship game, that's already a lock, right? I mean, it's already –
that is,
okay. Yeah. I thought so. Is it going to be a track meet or is it going to be a slugfest?
I don't think that it can be a track meet. I don't think because Alabama. I think while Alabama is not really known for their defense this year, I think they do have a high rated defense. Like I think as far as like yards per game or whatever, like their team defense is in the I think it's in the top 10 in the country if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think it turns into a slugfest. I don't think either team's defense is going to allow that.
Okay, maybe what's the highest point total? If I remember right, the highest point total that Georgia's given up all year is 17.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of those was a trash touchdown at the end, but I digress. But yes.
All right, but okay, let's take out the trash touchdown. Then your highest point total is 13.
10.
No, didn't someone get 13 on you?
Now, South Carolina and Kentucky both scored 13, but
okay, well,
Kentucky
somewhere between 13 and 17 is your highest point total given up.
Kentucky total, yes. Kentucky, they called a timeout at the very last minute to try and score a meaningless touchdown. So to me, that's also garbage. Just trying to be realistic. If Georgia was down on a 5-yard line and punched one in to make it 49-7, people would say that was low class. So if you're doing it as if you're doing it as a head coach, it's trash. I'm sorry, it just is. To talk about South Carolina,
Kentucky's
South Carolina,
I think Kentucky and Mizzou both did that. Was it Mizzou? One other team did that.
Yeah. South Carolina, Missouri tried to, and we stopped them. South Carolina's only got 2 field goals on offense. Their one touchdown came off of a pick 6, if I remember correctly. So the offense, the defense only allowed 6 points.
Okay, but so Florida is a high class program in your opinion because we only scored 7.
Yeah, well, you took your L with some dignity, right? And when Georgia's taking an L in years past, I've never once said that Georgia should go down there and score a moral touchdown. If we're getting blown out 10-51 and there's 15 seconds left on the clock and we're on the 25-yard line, there's no point in kicking a field goal. The game's over. You've lost. Take your knee and just go home. It's over.
Let me where was I going with this? I did have a good point I was trying to make. So if Georgia is, but the highest points Georgia's allowed is between 13 and 17, depending on how you swizzle it. Is Alabama capable, in your opinions, of scoring more than that?
Absolutely.
Against your defense?
I think so.
You think Alabama might be the best offense you faced all year?
Probably. I would be comfortable in saying that. Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee's got a pretty good offense. They're very explosive.
Florida.
Florida's offense was not terrible. I mean, Florida's offense was just young. I mean, that's really
badly coached. But I digress.
Yes, badly coached. But I mean, you guys still had games where you were putting up 40 and 40-70 points in one game. I mean, that's not a bad offense. If you look at the stats by the team, Florida was averaging what? Let me pull it up. 32 points a game before, and that number's changed. It was obviously higher before the Georgia game. And then you look at Alabama, I think they're averaging like 44 points a game or something like that. So I mean, you could argue that it's comparable, 44 points a game.
I think I just looked it up. As of right now, Alabama has the number 6 total offense in the country, and Florida has number 11.
So, if Alabama is putting up over 40 a game, Georgia's defense is allowing 10 points a game. I think is probably a good number.
The average now is 7 points a game. But go ahead, yeah.
Okay, whatever. The point I'm trying to make is this is diamond cutting diamond here.
Yeah.
I mean, this could turn into a battle of will.
Well, I mean, you could certainly say that. One of the things that I would want to point out is if you compare Georgia's schedule to Alabama's, while Alabama has had times when their offense looked really good, they seem to have struggled, at least in some respect, against the better offenses. Like they allowed 35 points from Arkansas. I don't think Arkansas has a great offense, but I mean, it is what it is. Tennessee has a pretty good offense. They scored 24. Texas A&M won the game at 41 points. They allowed 29 points from Florida. So it seems to me that when they play the better teams, those teams are able to overcome, at least at some aspect, the Alabama defense and are able to still get the majority of the points they normally would. Now, there's something to be said for you're allowing Mercer to score 14 points. You're allowing Southern Miss to score 14 points. The LSU, as terrible as they are, scored 14 points. So pretty much every Power 5 team, with the exception of Mississippi State, has scored at least 14 points. Miami had 13, but, 6 one way, half a dozen another. Georgia's got a powerful offense. I think the offense is going to be more than strong enough to get to the 30-point range, and it's going to be a matter of Georgia keeping Alabama out of the 30-point range, which I can absolutely foresee. They only scored 20 points against LSU. They scored 31 points against Florida, but Florida didn't have that great of a defense. This will by far be the best defense that Alabama has seen all season, but this will be a comparable offense to what Georgia has seen before. I feel like the gap between what Georgia is going to show them on defense versus what Alabama is going to show us on offense is not comparable. I think Georgia's going to.
That's what I was trying to get. That's what I was trying to get to. I was just trying to see. We got there.
Well, I think
this will be a closer game than everyone thinks.
As
this will be a 3-point game.
As a Georgia fan, I'm expecting basically like a 30-24 type of game. If Bama scores 30 points, we're in trouble.
And you are going up against one of the great coaching minds out there. He's going to game plan something.
No doubt. But you've also got to admit that Georgia has done an amazing job this year of game planning as well.
Georgia's defense is based off of speed, and there's only so much game planning you can do against speed, and speed doesn't slump. So,
yep,
that's the difficult thing.
Guys do keep rotating a lot of defenders in and out,
and they're all fast. And that's the only thing I think they may find hard against scheming against our defense. I think, Alabama's just got. If they can just get first downs. I think going for chunk plays maybe a bad way of doing it, but if they can just grind out first downs, and keep our offense off the field, that's what no team has been able to do all year. That's why we're averaging 40 points a game on offense. It's not because we have this great offense. It's because our defense gets the ball back to us. Yep. They're not, our offense isn't giving up anything.
I think it's going to be a really, really good, hard-nosed game.
Looks like after this
I do think in the end, and it grinds my teeth to say it, but I think in the end, it's Georgia going to be raising the SEC title, and Alabama's going to the Sugar Bowl.
And that's possible. When you look at the individual player performance, they have one really solid running back in Brian Robinson Jr. And traditionally, to beat a Georgia team, you need at least 2 solid running backs. And typically, Alabama has 2 solid running backs. This particular year, they've got Brian Robinson Jr. The guy is a beast. However, if he's going to run between the tackles, he's going to be running right at Georgia's best anchor player we have, and that's Jordan Davis. He is a monster among monsters. He's bigger and better than a man among men. He is a monster among monsters. He's incredibly strong. He's incredibly fast. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Alabama offensive or defensive line, but I'm saying when you got a man that big who can consistently perform, it's different. And you've got one running back, they are going to 1,000% have to account for Jordan Davis. And I think that's going to allow Nakobe Dean and company to continue to do what they do. And that's apply that speed to the corners. It's going to be difficult to run the ball. You're not going to run it up the middle, and it's going to be really hard to run it on the corners. Alabama has not been the most balanced team this season for pass versus rush. They're 3,700 yards in the air and 1,700 yards on the ground. So it's, 30-60, I guess is probably the best way to say it.
So you think Georgia is going to line up 7 in the box, or maybe even 8 in the box, and dare Bryce Young to throw it?
No, I don't at all.
No,
I think
don't think they
what
have to.
Georgia's going to do is they're going to drop back and tell you got to run it. If you want to win this game, you're going to have to run it. That's what I think is going to happen. I think that they're going to leave 4 in the box and say run it and drop everybody back to cover the pass, because that is Alabama's strength.
It's also supposedly Georgia's quote, and I'm using air quotes you can't see. Supposedly Georgia's quote unquote weakness is their secondary.
I agree. There's been times this season where I definitely felt like the secondary was suspect, but that's why if you change the game plan where you take away your weakness and you take away their strength, then you've got to make their weakness play to your strength. And our strength is stopping the run game. Their weakness is the run game. If we drop back and say, you're going to run it, if you're going to beat us, you're going to run it, that's where the game plan is going to come from. And I don't think that they're going to be able to do
slant
much.
plays all day and make you crazy.
You look at Tennessee. Tennessee on very first play from scrimmage exposed our secondary. The ball was just overthrown, but after that, I think Hooker was running for his life the rest of the game. So it's like the secondary can be suspect, but nobody really knows Georgia's secondary, how well it plays, because nobody's really had time to let their receivers get more than 15 yards downfield before they had to either run or throw the ball or get sacked. So, I mean, if you're back there against this line that Georgia's got, I mean, you just don't have time to run deep patterns a lot.
At least your DC can, change and become unpredictable.
And
I wouldn't know what that's like. I haven't had that in 3 or 4 years.
Clemson and Pastor Dave are talking about me being high on B-Rob. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. He's got 14 touchdowns. You guys have 20 rushing touchdowns total, and 14 of them come from B-Rob. He's at 945 yards. Will likely break 1,000 this season, whether it's in the Iron Bowl, whether it's against Georgia, whether it's in a bowl game, provided he doesn't get hurt. He's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. You have to account for that guy. The other backs are serviceable. Roydell Williams, he's 6 yards a carry. Trey Sanders is 5 yards a carry. Jace, what is this guy's name? Jace McClellan, he's 4 or 5 yards a carry. These are all serviceable running backs, but you can tell who they give it to the most. If Georgia stops that guy, the game's over. If Georgia can drop 7, you're not going to throw it. If Georgia can stop the run with 4 guys, you're not going to win the game. If Georgia can stop the run with 5 and drop 6, you're not going to win the game. So
the problem is that Georgia's linebackers, the scheming that we do as far as how we, how they drop those guys, blitz those guys. I mean, I think Bryce Young is going to have his hands full dealing with that. He's not going to be able to sit back. I mean, I think Alabama's offensive line is not the best in the world in the first place. And, he's not going to have all day to sit back there and throw. I think he's going to have to make decisions. He's going to probably have second and a half to make a decision, or else he's going to have to, make a decision on the run. So we'll see how good he is at that.
He's extremely accurate throwing the ball, and they've managed to overcome some deficits. But the guy's been sacked 26 times this season already for a sack yard of loss of 185 yards. That's against the average defenses that Alabama's been playing. Alabama has not played a phenom defense. Nobody that they've played has had a phenomenal defense. They've played middle of the road or worse defensive teams. When it comes down to it, this is the best defense in all of college football in probably the last 20 or 30 years. It's going to be extremely tough for that guy to do much. In my opinion, part of me wants to say, go back and watch the Clemson game and watch how DJ Uiagalelei was running for his life and getting sacked every other play. I think you're going to see some of that. Now, Alabama may be smart enough to try and call plays to prevent that from happening and try to do quick checkdowns and get rid of the ball quick. It's going to be hard to throw the ball deep. That's probably going to be their scheme. And if that's the case, the Georgia linebackers are going to eat them for lunch because they're fast.
I think everybody knows what Bama's going to do. It's slants over the middle.
Yep.
And
I think that's the only way you can beat Georgia's pass defense.
That's a dangerous place to lurk as a receiver, is over the middle against those linebackers. I mean, there's going to be some pops in this game if they're going to do that. I'm afraid.
Oh, wait a minute now. 10 years ago, I would have agreed with you on that. Nowadays, with these new rules, receivers wrapped in triple bubble wrap, and everyone's playing. Everyone wants you to play flag football. Ain't gonna be no popping like they used to be.
I don't know. Lewis Seen really likes to hit. That dude.
Yeah, he don't.
He reminds me a lot of Thomas Davis.
He don't mess around. Pastor Dave said, "Yeah, big dog. They should have put the other backs in. Maybe. But in the years past, you guys have been a little more balanced on running back situations. But Crimson Dave says, Big Dog Brett, well, Bryce is still by far way more quicker and elusive than DJ. Maybe so. But Georgia's defense is way more faster and quicker than anybody you guys have seen probably in the past 5 seasons. And I mean, that's not me saying that. That's Paul Feinbaum saying that. And he loves Alabama. I mean, that's just the way that goes.
Oh, he hates Florida. I know that much.
Yeah,
I'm just ready for this game. I wish we could just fast forward.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to see any injuries this week. That's what I'm worried about. I'm more worried about injuries than I am anything else.
Yeah.
I was about to say, you got to get past Georgia Tech and come out the other side healthy. I mean, we know you're going to come out with a win. You want to win, but be healthy.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Sarah, I'm glad you're back home, man. I know you spent a weekend in the hospital. Glad to have you back. And if somebody would have told me I couldn't have college football, that would have had to have ended immediately. I was like, nope, reading my papers, checking out.
is the Georgia Tech game a noon game?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, at least your day will be over. The pressure part of the day will be over quick, and then you can enjoy the rest of the day.
Let me be extremely honest with you. I would not want to go to a Georgia Tech game at night.
Not at Georgia Tech. No,
not at Georgia Tech.
I wouldn't. That's the wrong part of town to be in after the sun go down.
Right. Michael Hogue says, Brett, I have to say that you are going to be cooking on the Blackstone tomorrow for breakfast before Thanksgiving. I probably will be cooking tomorrow. I don't know if I'll do a broadcast, but I'll probably just get up and make something quick. I will tell you, with beyond the shadow of a doubt, it is easier to smoke brisket, to smoke chicken, to make good pulled pork than it is to make freaking hash browns. I suck at making hash browns. I burn them every time. I've tried 10 different recipes. I have no way to do it right. I'm about ready to give up and just ride down to McDonald's and buy them for $1 and bring them home and be like, here you go.
Right.
But yeah.
Hash browns I got to admit, hash browns is an art.
Yeah, man, it just makes me feel bad. I feel like I need a felony and a paper hat to cook them right.
Do you squeeze all the water out of them?
Hang on a second here. I got something playing music that shouldn't be playing music. I don't know what it is. Do I squeeze the water out of it? So here's what I did last time. I peeled the potatoes. I grated the potatoes. I rinsed them. I patted them dry. Then I mashed them dry. I made sure they were dry before they hit the grill. I put on vegetable oil and butter and salt and pepper and covered them and timed it for 5 minutes, just like the recipe says. Waited the 5 minutes, flipped them over, more oil, more butter. They looked good, but they were super greasy and oily. And I tried to cook them longer, ended up burning them. So I don't know.
Maybe more butter, less oil.
Crimson Brave says, I certainly wouldn't mind seeing some of our younger, more talented receivers play some. You may end up getting your wish, because if you guys throw a bunch of them over the middle, I can assure you that Georgia has been practicing tackling by getting their head out of the tackle so that we don't get a targeting call.
Hash browns are hard.
The biggest thing that I wish I could do as far as coaching and training goes is I wish that I could find out who the referees were so that I could send them a copy of the real book with YouTube links on what is what, like what actual offsides is, what holding is, what targeting is, what a catch is, what a non-catch is, things like that. Because referees, I don't understand how in the world the referees across all of college football can be as bad as they are. And I've seen these same referees for 10 years. They should have figured this out by now.
You know why? Because I think others have made this argument, and I agree with them. Referees are not full-time referees. They're accountants, they're lawyers, they're house husbands, they're, trash. I don't know what the fuck they are, but I'm sorry, I did it again. I don't know what they are, but they're not full-time referees. They're part-time referees and full-time something else. They need to be full-time refs. They're hired as refs. They're trained as refs. During the week, they're going through training. They're reviewing the films of the games that they called with respect to, okay, this was questionable. This was borderline, but you made this call. And be full-time employees and do nothing else and become professional referees.
I agree 100%. 100% agree. With the amount of money with the amount of money the NCAA, with the amount of money the NCAA makes every year off of college football, they could easily afford to pay a salary to these referees and providing the training. We don't seem to have a problem. We don't seem to have a problem with taking a 4-minute TV timeout and running over a $40,000 sky cam behind the quarterback and broadcast it on 2 different channels. Think about all the money involved and what has to be done to do that. But we can't pay one of these referees $100,000 a year. You know good and well one of these referees, if he had the plane tickets, all that stuff was paid for, and pay him $100,000 a year, dude, who wouldn't take that job?
Mike Hogue raises a question. What do you do about them during the off season? I don't care.
Train them.
Yeah.
Have a physical fitness training. Get them
some of these old refs, these old takaktas, they look like they've got pastrami dribbling out of their mouths between plays. Train them up.
Train them to coach all
season. Get them in a physical fitness program.
Train them to ref all season sports.
How about this? Yeah. Salaries of college football referees in the U.S. range from $11,000 to $314,000, with the median salary being $57,000. The middle 57% of college football referees make between $57,000 and $142,000. It sounds like they're already making good money.
They need to be full-time employees with real training.
Are you sure that's payment as refs, or is that just like their real jobs? Because from my understanding is they get paid on a per game basis, but I could be wrong. That was what I thought.
It says salary ranges for college football referees.
They need to be full-time employees with a hell of a lot more training. And they need to work out what in the hell is a target, what in the hell is a catch.
Well, I think the other thing that really should happen, the NCAA should do, is years ago they used to have these videos where it was basically dummies, but it was computer generated. And they like run together and run around each other and whatever, and you can see how they would do a play, Why can't you have that same stuff put together as whenever the helmet is face down like this and it hits a player, that's targeting, but if it's to the side, that's not targeting. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to build those simulations and show the fans what's going on. If they would have articulated themselves better at the Tennessee game, they would not have had half of the problem they had.
And the mustard bottle would never have come out of the stand.
I can't say that. We're talking about Tennessee, but they might not have thrown it at the cheerleaders.
But then again, the Tennessee fans did help create Colonel Mustard.
That is true. That is true. And that is a benefit.
We must thank the Tennessee fans for the partial resurrection of General Voltard in the person of Colonel Mustard. So
Hey, Michael, I'm gonna invite you in for just a minute, dude. But we're fixing to jump off here because I got like 500 things I still got to do today. So if you want to jump in, go ahead. But we're about to jump off.
and I got to get some sleep because I am an old man.
I ain't far behind you, brother. I'm not far behind you.
And tomorrow I gotta, among other things I gotta do, I gotta clean and polish a menorah, which takes about 2 hours.
What do you use? Do you use Brasso or what do you use?
Cape Cod.
Okay. Have you ever tried Brasso?
Yes, but I can't find it as easily as Cape Cod. And I use Cape Cod to polish a lot of watches for my dad and myself. You can't use Brasso on that stuff. It's too harsh. So I got a lot of Cape Cod cloths around for watch polishing. So
okay. So it's just what you got. Okay.
All right. Hey, Brett, how you doing tonight, sir? Hey, Celine. Hey, Keith. How you guys doing?
Mike?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, that income you just talked about, that's from the regular job because a lot of the officials are getting anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 a game.
Okay.
That's the regular job. And I somewhat agree with you, but yet you can only train so much during the year. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
How can you train, especially if you're working other sports? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Why would you need to work other sports if you're
okay? How much
professionally?
do they get paid? Okay, how much should we get paid? And I'm an umpire and referee myself. How much do you think we should get paid a year?
$100,000 a year at least.
Okay. And Brett, have you ever? You look like you. If you was to do it, what sports would you work? If you was to be an official?
Oh, if I was going to be an official, I'd be official for golf. No doubt, golf 100%.
Oh, and trust me, I'm sure there's issues for that too. But no, seriously, I know a lot of Big Ten officials and stuff, and other officials. It's just they review film. If you would know, the SEC's been bad as far as, and I don't like slamming officials, but it makes me shake my head sometimes about them. The last couple of years and stuff, those guys constantly train like each week. They go over. They have like Zoom conferences, goes over training, and they're still screwing up. How? I have no idea. That's what. Okay, let me ask you this: when was the last time you seen an SEC crew do a national championship?
Well, they do one every year.
No, they don't. Big Ten's had more in the last since the college football playoff. I think this is what the 8th year for it.
Yeah.
Big Ten's done 5.
Sure, they wouldn't have an SEC crew do a championship game where the SEC was playing. So
I thought he just meant having any referees doing an SEC championship game.
No. I'm talking about the college football playoff.
Oh, I don't know.
5 of the last 8 years have been Big Ten officials. Anyway,
but it doesn't. But here's the thing: that doesn't matter because you can get referees whether it's Big 10, Big 12, Mountain West, Mountain East, American. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the amount of training that they do. Do you know how many pages long the NCAA rule book is right now?
Yeah, it's probably around 300 last time I checked.
It is
probably about 50% too big.
464 pages long.
Yeah, I knew it was a thick book.
And that rule book, by the way, mainly references other rules in other books.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're really talking about is like, okay, for instance, on page, let me find one here. Let me just pick a page.
So in other words,
1 to 400.
The NCAA rule book is like the IRS tax code.
Pretty much.
So there's rules about, and this is not even the one for football. This is just one for overall, like residency requirement, cooperative educational work experience, repeated courses, your requirements for. See, the rule book to play football is huge.
Oh, that's different than the actual rule book. I think that's like for like if you're a college athlete though, or do you talk about specific rules? That's just like I got to ask you a question a minute ago. You said you can't get targeting from the side.
No, you can absolutely get targeted from the side.
Exactly, and I've seen some missed calls and stuff this year.
Yeah, the NCAA rule book that is for college football is 235 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
And there's stuff in there that can be expanded upon and defined. I mean, I don't care how good of a referee you are. I really don't. Unless you do this full time, there's no way you're going to be able to remember all these rules.
You want me to tell you one thing that'll help out officiating across the board in every sport?
I don't.
Fire away.
Any of them that have video review, that's called in from another place, like baseball does, like college football does. The people that review the play should never know what the call on the field was.
Thank you. Now let me ask you this: for the SEC, they got a replay crew there, but is everything coming from Atlanta?
That's my understanding. Now I could be wrong on that, but that's the way I thought it was.
Like for the Big Ten. Go ahead. Sorry.
Now I know that in hockey, for example, when they review anything, whether it's a goal or whether it's a targeting penalty or whatever, all the reviews go to one place, and that's
Toronto
NHL headquarters in Toronto.
It's like baseball does. Baseball does the same thing.
Yeah.
That's like
but in football, the review is done at the stadium, where the camera setups can vary from place to place.
And I'm okay with that too. But the people that are in charge of making those calls at the stadium, because I think they have video review people that help make those calls.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember at the beginning of 2020 last year, they gave the fans like an inside view of that happening, of the play being reviewed. I think those people should sit in the dark and not know what's going on, not watch the game, because my problem is, particularly in college football or in football in general, this continuation play. I've always had a problem with that. I understand the idea of it, but when you're telling the umpire or the refs to err on the side of it being a fumble every time, then that's what gets called on the field almost every time, is that it's a fumble. And then it requires, and if there's a turnover off of that fumble, then it requires irrefutable evidence to give the ball back to the offense. That, to me, that is giving an advantage to a turnover, to a change of possession. And that, I don't think that should happen. I think if there's any ambiguity on whether or not a fumble happened, if there's not indisputable evidence that there in fact was a fumble, then I think the team with the ball should have the advantage to retain possession. I think having it automatically called a fumble, that just it
opens the
door.
door.
It just gives the advantage to a change of possession. And I just don't like that. I think that's terrible. I think that's terrible.
Because the rule is
terrible design.
You have to have undisputable video evidence to overturn it.
Yeah,
So
but it's always going to be called a fumble every time.
Right.
So then it's just a matter of who recovers it.
I'm more of a fan of letting the play finish before you send it to the replay booth.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I don't think the replay booth should know what the call on the field was.
Well, how are they not going to know what the call is?
If they don't watch the play, they don't watch the game. They sit in a room.
They gotta know what they're getting ready to. See what I'm saying? Though, on the flip side, they gotta know what they're getting ready to, because they can. The bad thing about it is, what happens if there's a targeting penalty during the play, and they don't throw the flag?
The refs on the field should be the ones to decide that. If they think it's a targeting call, they should throw a flag, and then it goes up to review. Then review looks at the play without any commentary at all. They start the play from where that play happened. They know nothing. They know no context. They see the play, and they make the play as if they were the ref on the field. But they get all the angles, so they can try to get it right without any influence on what the call on the field was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I like this sitting in a dark room knowing nothing.
How are you going to? Okay,
it's just like the baseball. It's just like baseball. Baseball is a perfect. If you want to see that, baseball is a perfect example of why that should happen, because you have the good old boy system in baseball.
But okay, let me ask you this:
they don't want to show up the umpires.
But see, the thing about that is, though, is if how are you going to know if you got to get it? You're going to have a replay review without no communication from the officials. You know,
because
if
the people up there doing the video review, if they're sent a play, then they know that there's some type of something that happened, right?
Yeah.
So why is it that they can't make
the same
inference from it that the on-field refs did?
Correct.
And if they can't, even though they get to see the replays and the on-field refs didn't, They get
Pick
to
up the
see
flag.
replays from different angles, and if they can't come up with what happened, then there's then nothing happened, or whatever they see happen is what happened. I just don't. I think having a call on the field influences what if the idea. This is my thing. If the idea is to get the call right, it should not be influenced by what the call on the field was.
Correct.
It should be judged, and if they don't find anything, like if they can't definitively say that it was or wasn't a fumble or was or wasn't a targeting, then it goes back to the field and play continues.
Okay,
Stands.
but
Correct.
see,
Those stands.
here's the thing, though, Keith. If you don't know what's going, if you're not watching the game, if it's blacked out and stuff like that, how you gonna go about saying what do you do? The referee comes up to the thing and say, "Hey, we need to get this reviewed or something." How are they gonna know what to review?
That's what they do anyway.
Because because the play gets called up, right? I mean, the ref
Yeah,
throws the thing.
No. They buzz down to the field.
I know they do that now, and that's the problem. That's the problem. They want to see the play based off of what they saw, based off of what the refs called on the field, and their judgment is based off of what's on the field.
Okay.
Now, it's not always that way, but when they can't decide whether or not something, they go with what was called on the field, and it's like, in the case, and that's fine most of the time, but when you start this rule that they have now, this continuation play where the refs are encouraged for the call on the field to always be a fumble.
Well,
right? They're not making that call. They're letting it be a fumble every time.
Yeah, it's just like the NFL. Same way there.
Yeah, and I think it's terrible there too. Anytime that the call on the field has a decided advantage over what the call is going to ultimately be if there's no video evidence, and then the rules are saying that the call on the field should be this every time in that call, then you're by rule you are giving the advantage to a change of possession on any ambiguity of a fumble. And I think that's crazy.
That's like during the Colts game Sunday, there was an interception, right? And you know how every time there's a turnover, they're supposed to. Well, in New York, the NFL league offices watching it, they actually was able to buzz the game official saying it ended up being an incomplete pass. They actually overturned it without being a review.
I don't necessarily have a problem whenever they see something that is blatant, right? Like a blatant touch of a football or a blatant drop pass or something like that, and buzzing out to the field and be like, hey, we're trying to get this right. We clearly saw that this happened. You guys missed it on the field. Okay, fine. I think what we're really talking about, or what Keith is talking about.
You could have two different review people, right? You could have somebody that watches the game and somebody that doesn't watch the game. The people that watch the game say, trigger, something happened, and then we're going to let the guy that didn't watch the game rule on it. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of ways to make it right.
You can share some information. You can say, on this particular play, there were two players involved, player number 84 of the offense and player number 17 of the defense. Please review this for anything. And they can look at it. I mean, you got two guys running together. It's not going to be hard to figure out if it was holding, if it was a personal foul, if it was a drop pass, if it was targeting, if it was horse collar. It's not going to be difficult to figure out. If they just tell you the two players involved, you should have more than enough information.
Okay, true. One last thing before I let you guys go, because I know Brett's still got to prep for tomorrow because you got to cook Thanksgiving dinner from what I heard.
No, because you want to be able to eat it. My wife's doing that.
Oh, wow. But hey, Brett, I see you're a good chef, though. How would you change the targeting rule?
As far as
eliminate it.
Okay, but would you just get rid of would you do make it the first time a 15-yard penalty unless it was egregious enough for the ejection?
What I would do is I would have two different kinds of penalties. I would have you have the roughing the kicker and you have the running into the kicker. So there's going to be times where I feel like, yes, it was targeting, or like unsportsmanlike conduct. Yes, you have unsportsmanlike conduct, but you get one that's a warning. The second one, they kick you out. Yeah, and there's no reason why you can't do something similar.
I think the way you have to look at the targeting call, I think the way you have to fix it is you have to look. I don't want to use the word intent, but I think you have to figure out a way to get rid of the calls like you saw in the Florida State game on Jamie Robinson, where he was going. You had a quarterback running, and Jamie starts his tackle, and then the quarterback slides, and you get a helmet-to-helmet contact.
Yeah,
getting targeting on that call, that should never happen, because I mean, So I think the way you fix the targeting call is you look and see when was the tackle initiated based off of, and then compare it to what the runner did. If there was no intent, if the defender was tackling with good mechanics, like he was doing it the way you're supposed to, and there was incidental helmet to helmet contact, that should not be targeting.
Yeah. That's like, why is it more often like running backs? Because you see who's lowering their heads more often, running backs or the defense?
It's the offensive guys for sure.
Why is it? They're
never see. I completely.
And they're not even supposed to do that.
I completely.
This is football. This is not ballet.
It's the same thing with
and that's why we're making the point is that without taking the physicality out of football, you need to leave that in there because that's one of the things that makes football great. The violence of football, whether we want to acknowledge it as violence or not, it's violence.
Mm-hmm.
We enjoy it. We say what you want to. That's why boxing's popular. That's why UFC is popular. That's why the martial arts are popular. It's violent. We're humans. We're animals, and we like violence. We just accept that. That's the way it is. Yep. Everybody loves to see somebody get popped when they're playing football. Now we love to see the guy spring right back up, but we still like seeing the contact. When it comes to the targeting penalties, in my opinion, I think Keith hit the nail on the head. I think there needs to be a caveat that is carved out for if I, as a defender, have already launched towards you to tackle, and then through your motions, you put yourself in line of contact for me to create targeting, that should be a wash. That should be you help contribute to this. I help. It's no different than we get two personal fouls. They offset. If you contribute to the targeting and I contribute to the targeting, it's not targeting. We were both involved.
Now, as a defender, you got to keep that head up, though. I mean, like if you go in the tackle and if you're looking at the ground and hit with the crown of your helmet, even if you did it on accident, I think that's targeting.
Oh yeah.
But if you're tackling, if you got your helmet up, if you got your face mask up, and you initiate a tackle, and that guy decides to slide or sit down or try to avoid contact in any kind of way, and you helmet to helmet him or whatever, then I can't see calling that on the defense, because you don't want to enter into a point where defenders are afraid to defend.
Yeah,
correct.
We're teetering on that.
The operization of life in general, but the football in particular. This is a game of hitting. We hit people in football. Yes. Sometimes the hits are what you didn't want them to be. Enough with the targeting rule. Get rid of it. It's destroying the game.
I mean, I'm fine with the head hunting. I mean, the helmet to helmet stuff. I mean, that stuff is dangerous, and it has led to long-term problems with NFL guys. I mean, it's bad. And so I'm okay with coaching that out. And you see, I mean, you look at there's been great legal hits in the game, and it's unfortunate that it's littered with incidental helmet to helmet contacts that get people ejected.
You remember in the I'm sorry, I thought you. You remember in the I remember this hit specifically, the 2008 championship game. Very early in the game, Major Wright came flying in from the left side, from the right side, and just as the ball was about to be caught by the Oklahoma receiver, he blasted him into the next month with a completely legal hit. And it just knocked the guy 5 yards into the bench. And it was a beautiful hit. Go look it up if you want to see it. It was a beautiful, actually legal hit. In this day and age, he would have been suspended for life.
Maybe. One of the things that I like about football is it seems like they're trying to allow it to still be hard hitting and fast paced. There was a while there where everything was targeting. It was bad, and then they tried to fix it back the other way a little bit to give guys some leniency. Targeting will probably never be fixed. It's often a bang bang play. So I mean, not much you can do. One of the things though, is while we're talking about it though, and I do have to get off. One of the things that definitely needs to be fixed, and referees need to be fined for this crap, is the lack of proper and the use of too much pass interference calls. How in the world can you miss the pass interference calls that I have seen this year and call the ones you do call? Now, there's some that's obvious. Don't get me wrong. But there's tons of them out there that if they're
make you shake your head.
What's that?
There's some that I've seen this year, like, is that really pass interference? Because that sure doesn't look like it to me. And then there's blatant ones where the guy's getting mugged.
It's the inconsistency is killing me. Even in the same game, you'll see guys hand fighting. And I mean, hand fighting and hand jockeying is normal. Happens all the time with cornerbacks and wide receivers. But those guys just trying to get in position. You'll see a guy turn his head, and then they'll call pass interference. And then on the next call, you'll say, well, if he'd have turned his head, they wouldn't have called it. It was like, well, yeah, they did. They just did it. So, yeah, I don't know.
All right, Brett, I'm going to let you go. But no, when do you usually stream, man?
Wednesday nights, 9 to 10. This one's went a little bit long. Saturday mornings and games during the day. Also, this coming up week, guys, I'm going to be probably doing some more stuff with Mark Rogers TV. So if you've made it this far in the broadcast, go check him out, subscribe to him, so that way when I do shows over there, you don't miss those either.
Oh, how's basic training going for your son?
He actually had an injury. We're waiting to get past that, and then once he's past that, he should be able to go.
So where's he going?
Right now, he's going to work.
No, I mean once he goes to basic.
We don't know yet. We have to wait until he's cleared.
All right, not bad. Well, hey guys, Champ, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. And what time Saturday morning, Brett?
Yes, sir.
What time Saturday morning?
I'll be driving Saturday morning, so it's hard to tell. We don't know yet.
All right, be careful, man. Thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
All right, Celine, you got anything else to say before we wrap up the show?
No, I mean nothing about the show, but I am going to do a live stream on Saturday at noon on my channel of the Florida State game. Obviously, I can't show the game, but you can watch me lose my friggin' mind if that entertains you.
You would rather lose. You would rather lose to Florida State without Dan Mullen than win with him.
No, untrue.
You would. So you mean to tell me you would rather keep Dan Mullen and win this game than lose?
No, Dan Mullen's already gone. I don't understand the question.
I said if you had a choice, you would rather lose and be happy that he's gone and getting a new coach rather than still have him here and win this game.
No, I mean, you're asking me to pick between Mullen and losing to my most hated team.
I was asking you to pick between Mullen and Mullen's wife, but I mean, your choice.
Hey, I hate Florida State too, man. I get to be a Gator fan once a year.
I would rather, no, honestly, I would rather beat Florida State under any circumstance.
Okay.
Even if it meant that I would have to put up with Moose Stump for a while, I would rather do that than lose to Florida State. Losing to Florida State is so distasteful a thought that you can't come up with a scenario of would you rather that I don't think I could come up with one.
I got one.
Oh, here we go. It's either going to involve a hot car or a Rolex.
How about I guarantee you a national championship next year, but you lose to Florida State for the next 2 years?
Do I get to beat Georgia?
Absolutely.
I'll take it. Every man has his price. I'll take a natty and beating Georgia for 2 years in a row if I have to lose to Florida State for 2 years in a row.
There you go. Well, guys,
there's my price.
There's the price.
There you go.
What do you got, Keith?
But if you want, come on over, watch me lose my mind. Noon on my channel on Saturday.
Yep.
Thank
Celine Driver. You guys go check him out. It's good stuff over there. What about you, Keith? What you got?
I don't have anything. I got Go Dogs, and the Braves are still World Series champions.
That's right. All right, you guys hang out just a second. I'm going to wrap up the show here. Just stick around in the back of the studio. Really appreciate you guys sticking around so long. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know Pastor Dave stuck it out for a while. Nate the Great, Crimson Brave, Jordan Bowman. How you doing, sir? Surprised he didn't join the channel. Pizza Woman, Derek Stevens, P Digits. Also, hey, there's Big Dog Brett. Good to see you, sir. Traveling Fools, The Real TB. What was another one I saw? Lizard Circus is one of my favorite ones there. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, Bulldog JC, Rick Sanchez, Michael Hogue, the illustrious, industrious, and ever revolutionary Celine Driver, and Keith Carr. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a great night, sir. We'll see you guys soon. Have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving. God bless. Go Dogs.